Hey guys, you are watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Episode 3. And today we're going to review The Attacks of 2611, directed by Ram Gopal Varma. Our first time
watching a movie by
him. We've been told he is Anurag Kashyap's mentor, and I could actually see some of that in some of his the violence. Very much
for
so.
sure. I mean, it was not a.
This one's gonna be a tough one to review for me because it was hard to watch, and not hard to watch because it was like a bad film or anything. It was just like it got real heavy to the point where I was like, you know.
It's funny. The movie was only 2 hours long, and it felt like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Because of that.
It's just dense.
And I think we should start by just saying that anything I say about the movie is going to be about the movie and not the actual events. So if I don't like a particular thing, please don't take offense to it that I'm criticizing the events. It's about the movie and the storytelling and the production and stuff. So let's all be mature adults here and recognize that we're talking about the film here, not the events that transpired.
It's not a critique of the events, it's a critique of the film, as we're not 100% familiar with the actual events either. We're not
historians.
We're not historians. We're not qualified to criticize the attack or anything what happened. You know, it's terrible that the tragedy happened, and we don't want to take away from that. This is purely 100% about this film itself.
I just want to throw that out there. I really don't like to do that, but I just feel like this is going to be a sensitive issue, and if I don't say that, we're probably gonna get that in the comments anyway. But at least we've done our due diligence and said that, like, we're trying to talk about the movie here because it's a movie review. But I think we should just start right from the beginning. I mean, this week, the 6 categories we have, as always: directing, cinematography, editing, story. We're also gonna have sound in there this week, which covers sound design as well as sound mixing. And our bonus, the variable category this week is effects, both visual, practical, and whatnot. And we'll get into that. But let's start with the good, like always.
I think the director did a really good job of just capturing the violence, and it wasn't fun violence. Like, really getting that. He wanted you to feel like terrible and scared, and like just that feeling of doom that overcame, I'm sure, what happened, the victims.
The first attack, I didn't feel that, but every single one I felt after that.
It progressed. I
like
feel
the
like
hotel. I was like, oh
yeah,
shit.
like the first one, the first attack started off a little cheesy, and I'm like, wow, like the extras were acting terribly, the way they were moving as the guys were shooting and stuff.
Right.
But it kind of, as it progressed, it just got better.
Right. Well, it became, because you came more involved.
Yeah.
They upped the stakes every time.
And you started, like, I personally just started overlooking some of the acting issues that normally I would have been like, wow, this
guy's not an actor. This girl's not an actor.
But then I just didn't care at that point because it was,
which is
it was a
kudos
testament
to him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's not very easy to shoot scenes, even if this was a James Bond movie and they decided to throw all these action scenes in there, because they could have, these things would be in a James Bond movie, which actually make them more horrific because it's not a James Bond movie. It's a real life event that actually happened. But even doing that would be hard. So then to do that, but then the context of all this, like, that's a difficult balancing act, in my opinion. I enjoyed, the testament to that would be the camera work. I really enjoyed this neo-realist approach. I've talked about it in another movie review we did, I forget which one. The handheld effect really gives you that feeling that this is real, because that's what the Italians would do. Oh, that's what was going on during World War II. You know, they were going around filming the events and sending these reels off to the soldiers, to the people back home from the soldiers, and they'd watch these documentaries where, everything's handheld and everything's like kind of messy and not clean, and the zooms are all over the place, and there's no structure. It kind of throws out cinematic structure. And then the Italians were one of the first people to introduce that style into their neo-realist movement. Rome, Open City. There's a lot of movies that used this handheld style, and that was incorporated here because that's what we consider to be realistic. Especially nowadays with everyone's using the cell phones and the zooms are all shitty and they look crappy, but everyone's zooming in on something. That's because that's what happens in real life.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was great. Even at times where there's a wide, I know you hate like wide angle lenses sometimes, like too close because it like looks distorted. For example, there's a cab scene where they first get in the cab,
Yeah.
and then he's like, drive, but it's supposed to be his POV. As a directorial choice, that's a very odd choice to place yourself in the eyes of the cab driver because he's an unimportant character. But they did that anyway, and it made you feel uncomfortable. So it worked. It's these weird decisions that normally a director wouldn't do.
Right, but he was trying to he's trying to make you feel uncomfortable with this, so he's doing everything that he can to get that feeling out of you.
Which is ballsy, because it's not common. You'd follow the terrorist POV. You would watch their perspective. Because, like I said, the taxi driver is not important to the story.
No, definitely
He dies, obviously, in the bombing and stuff. But
everybody does.
Exactly. It's unfortunate, but he's not a pivotal point to the story.
And I like some of, although the killing of children was disturbing, there was that scene in the hotel where the baby was crying and it kept crying there the whole time. The crying stops for a second, then it comes back, and then, the crying stops after you hear a gunshot, and then it goes to the next scene. Like, that was like, I was like, are they going to kill this whole time? The only thing I was thinking about was, are they going to kill the damn kid? Are they going to kill the kid? Don't kill the kid. And they ended up killing the kid at the end like that.
Which I enjoyed. I wrote that down as a good. I enjoyed the violence.
I think enjoying it's
a loaded word, but I can't. That's why I said we're talking about it as a movie.
I personally can't say I enjoyed it. Like,
it's
not a
bring
movie
excitement.
I'm ever gonna watch again.
It didn't bring excitement out of me, but it definitely. I appreciate movies that if they're gonna touch upon subject matter like this, touch upon the fucking subject matter and go there. Don't give me the cookie cutter, the soft, G-rated version of the movie. Give me the real version. So I did enjoy that violence. It wasn't something where like I said, I didn't get off on it. It wasn't like watching Kill Bill where you see Uma Thurman literally just cutting people in half at the end of the movie. I enjoyed. I enjoyed that in Kill Bill. But I enjoyed this as a cinematic expression of realism. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it, because it's a ballsy move to do that. And I enjoyed that the effects were practical. When you see someone get shot in the face, you see them get shot in the face.
I'm going to strike enjoy from your vocabulary and change it to appreciate, because that's what you're saying. Because
I appreciate the fact that when you see someone
Daniel was born here, guys, and he doesn't know the English language, so you guys out there have issues sometimes.
Happens
to all of us.
I appreciated the practical effects. I'll say that. I appreciated the fact that there wasn't useless CGI, because this movie was made in 2013, so you could have had CGI, and there was CGI in this movie, and we'll get to that in a second. But I did appreciate that aspect. It separates itself from other movies that try to be real but also fail. They fall on their heads, and I don't know. Yeah, like I said, enjoys wasn't the right word. Appreciate's a better one, so thank you. But
I liked, and this is interesting because on the same time it's also something I disliked, but in one of the final scenes he takes the bad guy into the morgue or what. I don't even know if that was really a morgue. So he can be with his peers? Yeah, exactly. But, that turn of events, like, oh, you want to go be with your boys? Not him not knowing that all of them are dead and their bodies have been rotting for a couple of days because there's a stench in there.
Which was
like just...
That was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was definitely... It was brutal. I appreciated, I'm going to say enjoyed, but I appreciated the monologue that he had, because it was a long monologue, and I don't know how many takes it took. It'd be interesting on a technical level to see how long it took for him to get through that. But I think that was the best performance of the entire film, was that right there, acting wise.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
He did a great job, and it was like the monologue.
He was the audience.
Yeah,
he was being the audience in that moment, because that's what the audience was feeling. Like, that's, how could you say that you're for Islam or whatever?
Right,
but you're killing all these people. He's being the audience.
And it was informative too, because then you start learning this guy knows all the passages, and he's like, this is what this means.
Did so and so tell you about this guy and what he said and how this and this, and then the other guy's like, what?
And it almost feels like that was thrown in there to like kind of like be like, no, this isn't an anti-Islam film. We just want to let you guys know.
Which is actually, that's why I wrote that as a bad, and we'll get to that.
That's what I'm saying. It's a double-edged sword.
Because they start the movie with the whole, well, we'll get to that in the back. Yeah. We'll save that. The hotel scene, which you already mentioned, I really did appreciate that.
I mean, that's up there for me with like one of the more...
That was like the Call of Duty, when we referenced that, like that was the same exact feeling. That was on the nose.
That was one of the more brutal,
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of other films, like one of the most I've ever seen, like regardless.
I don't know why I related to that scene more than the other ones in terms of the attack. I mean, I don't stay at 5-star hotels.
Well,
but I've never traveled in other countries before.
It just really shows that how like
ruthless,
how awful these guys were. Like
today, there was another terrorist attack today in Germany. As you know, there was someone drove through the crowd, injured 20 people, 3 are dead. You know, I don't know how many people the injured people are going to be. And we all know who did it, so it's not like we can sit here. I'm not going to say, but if you have a brain, you can put 1 and 1 together. I mean, it's in Germany. Who else is going to do it? It's unfortunate that extremists do this shit, but
fucking Nazis.
If it were only the Nazis, it would be so much easier. But yeah, no, I appreciated that because I connected with that. I also enjoyed the little moments here and there. Like after the first attack at the Leopold Cafe or whatever it's called, the cops were like throwing rocks.
Yeah.
And sticks. Like, this is going to be a question. This is not a judgment. This is a pure question. Do not all police officers have guns because of India's bans on guns? Because if that's the case, it makes me appreciate my police force here as an American. Even more so. I don't care if they're militarized and they have all these guns. Because if that were to go down, you'd have the SWAT team on that cafe in minutes.
Well, we saw when they captured the guys, they finally had guns.
But how long after that? Right. It was a 4-day event.
I was like questioning that as well because I was like, why are these guys?
They only have sticks and rocks.
And I feel like they were throwing rocks in there just to see
like what would happen
if anybody moved.
But I don't know though.
Yeah.
They have sticks. They clearly didn't have guns.
Right.
To me, that's a big thing.
Well, it was inconsistent.
It's different.
It was inconsistent because some of the cops seemed to have pistols and some of them didn't.
At the train station.
Or those big rifles.
Which are so outdated,
yeah.
too. I mean, that's another thing where it's like, I'm not saying they need to have modern day M14 assault rifles or whatever,
right.
But
an
old World War II weapon that you got from the Russians. I mean, come on now.
I mean, the AK-47s are super old too.
But those stand the test of time.
Right, exactly.
Those are the difference. If the police officers were armed
with
AKs,
I'm saying like it's like you can't say it's a technology thing because the AKs are not new weapons.
No, I know,
so
but the cops are using they should have AKs guns. As well. Exactly, yeah. Bolt action rifles.
Yeah, they were definitely outmanned, and
that's unfortunate.
I mean, when we saw like they had to take a boat in from Pakistan to get all this stuff in,
which kind of made sense.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't fly in with this stuff. You can't drive in with it. So of course the boat's going to make the most sense. But that was eye-opening stuff because I don't know how real that is. I'm going to assume that was fairly accurate.
Yeah.
But let me know in the comments. Like, does that bother you guys ever? I'm going to assume probably not. But me, that would make me feel super unsafe in a weird way. Because it's funny because in one of our previous reaction videos, I was commenting about how unsafe I feel if you were to go in an airport full of armed men and stuff. And you're saying, well, don't go to Europe because that's how everywhere in Europe is. But then I watch a movie like this and I think to myself, well, shit. I'd rather have 20 armed security guards fully decked out than none at all. Than what they had in this movie. I
don't want to go completely off topic because we could go into a whole political thing about.
I think it's related to this movie.
I mean, it's an observation for sure, but I think
it made me think this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I didn't really question that. When it comes to like that kind of stuff in other countries, it's different because the U.S. is so like.
I understand that. I get it.
We're not landlocked,
I know. That's why it's hard for anyone to invade us.
Exactly.
For anyone to do anything to us. That's why when the Nazis tried to do something, they had to go in through Mexico or even Canada, but even that didn't go over well. So I mean, I get it. I'm not trying to press on the Indians' guns or whatever. It just made me feel this way.
No, I get it.
It's like,
start putting these thoughts in your head.
Maybe there is a reason for this safety that we have, this over security. I mean, there's pluses and minuses, everything. We won't get into that, but. I'd find it hard to believe that this would have happened in America.
Yeah.
Like this. But then again, we had 9/11. So, we're not 100% safe.
It took an airplane, not a couple guys.
This is true. But you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the bad then. I think one of the issues I had overall was just pacing. The pacing wasn't the best. Like you said at the beginning, like it's only a 2-hour film, but it felt way longer. And I think pace was the issue with that. It was just a little, and part of it was effective. Like you kind of wanted to stretch out and let these scenes breathe so that you felt.
Absolutely.
But there was other times where they could have cut through stuff.
There was no. spine.
No.
There was no backbone to this story. There was no story.
No.
There was no, and I think that's what fucks pacing up the most.
Right.
Because it was
had no connective tissue to really get back.
The commissioner's going to set up the event. We see the event. We go back to the commissioner or whichever his position was, I forget. He's going to explain the next event. We see that event, and then that's what the rhythm was. But by the time you get back to the guy, like, you know, that was a bad thing for me. I did not enjoy... But it's also something I enjoyed, too. It's like this weird thing where you said earlier.
Yeah.
I didn't like the narrator. I didn't like his character because he was just... If it was such a movie that was supposed to be, its foundation was realism, why not make a realistic story about it? Why not make him a character?
Also, the problem with it was that he wasn't a part of the story until the third act.
Right.
Like, we didn't see an investigation. We didn't see him trying to hunt these guys.
So why are they even talking about this?
I feel like
watching this
they found these guys
courtroom?
Because, if I'm not, tell me if I'm wrong, but they caught these guys because the dude was on the second story and saw them downstairs and was able to call ahead, and then they showed up at the hospital because they were able to get the word out that, hey, these guys are at the hospital. Well, it wasn't because they were like investigating.
Right.
And so the investigator himself wasn't important to the story until the very third act, and we only see him when we go to these courtroom scenes, which in itself, like, the courtroom scenes were a little bit odd because
I don't know if they were a courtroom or he was just talking to the
or the commission,
police.
Whatever. With the panel,
that's the thing. It's not clear either.
No, it wasn't explained what the panel was for.
You could have easily started the movie with him waking up, going to work that day for the first, whatever, because he didn't go to work. He was just with his wife.
Instead of him talking to the commission, it could have been him at the police station, like watching the TVs and calling, like getting these phone calls and like really like trying to figure out what's going on and figure out what happens next. And I get the reason why it wasn't in there as well. It's just kind of really hard to make this realistic and throw in that this guy's trying to solve the case because there's no case to solve.
But I will say this though, I will not disagree with you, and I just want to throw this out there. All of my criticisms are going to be stemmed from what I consider to be the perfect movie that deals with real-life events for this, and that's Reunited 93, directed by Paul Greengrass. If you haven't seen it, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Genuinely, it is a movie about the fourth airplane that was on 9/11 that crashed in Pittsburgh. But a lot of my criticisms about this film, that film does right. You know, it follows these people. I mean, another criticism I have is there's a lack of moments with the victims.
Yeah.
We don't really get to see who these people are, why they're going to the restaurant. And I know that's not important, but it would have helped me to better associate with the humanity here. You know, it's very much, we see these people at the train, we see them at the hotel, and then they're dead the next second. As opposed to...
Yeah, they were faceless victims.
And that's, you know, you have a face to the taxi cab driver, and you have a somewhat of a face to the bar, in the bar scene where the guy who's like, they're watching soccer or something. I'm not sure what they're doing in there. But I would have loved to sit down with them for 3 or 4 minutes to just have a conversation, and then something happens. I mean, I'm not saying it would have elevated the story or whatever, but...
No, but it gives you some sort of connection.
Who these people are that have died.
But at the same time, it's like... the carnage was already so heavy, like, I don't know...
For me, that's just...
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, because at the same time, I mean, it would have made it even heavier if you had, like, even...
Yeah, man. It would have also made it more realistic.
Yeah.
Because to me...
after these attacks happen, like in real life, you know, we get to know the victims afterwards because they'll like talk about, you know, Rick was a father of 3, he was a soccer coach.
And you could have incorporated that into the story, which is what Paul Greengrass did for United 93. Most of the dialogue was all improv, but he actually cast real people who were involved in the 9/11, not the 9/11 control room, but the flight control centers who were actually corresponding with the Air Force people, and he cast the actual people, the Air Force people who was reenacting all this stuff. So I'm saying
that's weird. I don't know if I was those people, if I'd want to like.
I think the message was more important than anything else.
Okay.
I think the story
I haven't seen it, so I
mean, it's a tough movie. It's one of the few movies that genuinely, I've seen it twice, and it's made me cry both times. I cried in the theater when I first watched it. Probably make me cry again. It's a fucking intense movie. It's genuinely super intense. But it does do all these little moments.
Yeah.
It even has moments with the terrorists at the very beginning of the movie where, and I know this isn't about attacks on 26/11, so just let me finish this, where it shows them in the hotel room and they're praying and they're doing all their preparations and stuff. But it's not criticizing it. It's not critiquing it. And and it's going to lead into one of my bads. The sound mixing, the score, and overall sound design just didn't work for me. There was moments where it did, but overall it didn't. For example, the movie makes a large effort to make you not want to criticize Islam and everything like that, right? But the very first time you see the terrorists who eventually do these things, the score's telling you they're bad guys right away.
Right.
It's automatically telling you, oh, let's throw the bad score so we know they're evil. I don't know they're evil as an outsider. Yes, as an Indian, I might know that these are the bad guys. But as an outsider who's never has exposure to the movie, I don't want to be indicated that they're bad. I want to see them do bad stuff.
They could have stretched out that intro as well, because it was just kind of like they hop on the boat and then 5 seconds later, okay, we're going to keep these guys over here. You got to take us into town. You know, they could have had like an uncomfortable moment where they're on the boat for a while. Maybe they're all, you know.
And maybe that's not what really happened, but this is a fucking movie.
Yeah.
This isn't a documentary. As much as the filmmakers wanted to make it that way, it's not. Because you have these moments with score and stuff. There wasn't score playing in that moment. I mean, to me, that sound design element where you actually say, okay, I want to have score here and I don't want to have sound elements here. Like in the train sequence, it's all music. So as a filmmaker, I'm thinking, was this a conscious decision, or did they not want to bother to do sound design? Did they not want to bother to capture the audio on set? Did they have too many working pieces? Maybe they had to record it from a distance. You know, I'm thinking about all these things because, and I hate to compare it to Hollywood films, but I can only compare it to United Night. They went to the effort and they made sure it wasn't just all score. They went and you heard everything. You know, it's important to hear all these things.
Right.
For me.
I mean, we don't know if that was a budgetary thing as well.
That's
like,
why I brought it
just
up.
didn't have enough time to get it done, or, you know, yeah, there's a constraints on it. We don't know, and you guys can tell us, like, we don't know, like, maybe someone didn't even want this film to get made, and the guy said, no, we're going to make this film anyway, so he didn't get that.
The extra funding he needed.
Yeah,
to do
or,
it right,
you know, or like the flexibility that he needed.
This is true, and that's why I'm saying.
Like, we got to shoot this in 15 days. That's all you get.
Right,
and I could believe that because of the
100%.
casting. Like, the actors, you know, there was no actor that really stood out. The only guy that really had lines was the detective.
And then the main bad guy, the two bad guys.
Right, but even then they didn't really have to.
Right, no, I'm not just. More... And this isn't saying that it ruined the movie.
No,
this is why these are not uglies, and as always, the bads are just things that bothered us, but aren't necessarily movie destroying. But some of the way the prop guns were handled. Like the sound effects came in early.
There was a lot of stuff like that, like a lot of like,
or like the gun,
the way they were holding,
shooting and you don't shoot guns like
and then, I mean, and I'll line that up with the sound as well. Like there was a lot of times where it sounded like they were one trigger, one shots, pulling one shot, and then but you know they're AK-47s and they'd be spraying and you know. So it was just like a lot of one single squeeze.
And that's probably because of the prop guns they were using. The blanks didn't have a fully automatic because blanks are expensive. So that's definitely a thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, so again, it's not that it was bad.
It's just little things like that I noticed.
It was like, whoa, popped you out for a second.
I shouldn't notice these things, but
Absolutely.
I did. And that goes back to I talked about like some of the acting from the extras wasn't the best either. You know, the way they were getting shot and moving, you know.
Which...
you know, and that's nitpicky. Like I say, he got the feeling he wanted. For me, he conveyed the feeling he wanted. He got it across.
Right.
But that's just
little things.
Little things I picked up here and there.
Little things.
And then overall, like, I don't know. I talked about how I like the acting and the performance in the monologue, but at the same time, the monologue was like the fakest part of the entire film.
Exactly.
You know,
it's not. That was the movie part about this movie.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Did that happen? Maybe. Who am I to say it didn't happen? It could have happened just like that.
Right.
But it's such a movie moment. It's such a I doubt it probably happened that way. And I only say that because the way it was written was like a commentary on the whole events. And I know, and it kind of circles back to
and
like
it was
why
a defense. It was a defense of like Islam in a sense. It was like it felt thrown.
Only these guys are bad.
Yeah,
not all of
it felt thrown in there so that to like avoid any criticisms they might have received from
And that's good. A good thing you brought that up because one of the major things that I consider to be bad was the first two opening title cards. The first one was basically saying, this isn't supposed to commentate on anything. This is how the real events were. We're not saying that. Basically, we're not saying Islam is bad, which they didn't say, but that's basically why they said it's to cover their asses. Because, unfortunately, extremists will kill you over shit like that. So you got to do it. I mean,
it's funny that the commissioner has that monologue at the end because before that monologue, he mentions like while he's talking to the commission about, you know, what kind of religion does this kind of stuff? What kind of religion goes out and you know, so he made like a critique of it, and then at the end,
and then he like circled back.
Exactly.
But I'm not.
Even though the talk in front of the commission happens after he does that monologue.
Right. Which is, again, I'm only, and the reason why I said extremists and not Islamic, because I know people who are Muslim and they're not bad people, but extremists are bad people and they do shit, and that's what it is. They would kill you over this. That's why they killed the fucking dude in France. You know, like that's what they do. I'm sorry, extremists do that stuff. People from Islam don't do that, but these extremists do, and that's all religions, no matter what religion you're a part of. The second title card I didn't like because they compared it to, they talk about 9/11, saying 9/11's bad, but this is what, who cares how bad 9/11 was?
Right.
I don't care. This is a movie about the attacks of 26/11.
Right.
Why do you need to talk about that at all? Why do you need to talk about either of those two things? If you want to show the audience that the movie's real, show the audience the movie's real.
Especially because you know who you're making the movie for.
Exactly.
They wasn't making it for American audiences, so they didn't have to throw that in at all.
It's just start with the first title card where it says, you know, this terrorist organization is one of the worst and that America considers it, blah, blah, blah. That's the title card you start with. Information. I don't need your opinion about how violent and everything that 9/11 was.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. We lived through 9/11. People who didn't live through 9/11 experienced 9/11 through that. It's irrelevant to the story. Yeah. That's what bothers me the most. I get what you're saying. They teach us in film school, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
That was showing, and that was telling, and there's plenty of showing.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room for you to just show that these people are bad. And I don't know, again, that's just, it really did bother me. And then there was a little bit of inconsistency with like how they actually acted. Like, and this might be how it was in real life. So if it is, I'll withdraw all of these complaints. But, you know, like when they carjacked that car, that silver car, why didn't they kill them? Why didn't they've killed literally everybody else. They killed the guy who gave them water and the kid. They killed everybody, but they don't kill the people they carjacked from. That didn't make any sense. I didn't understand that.
I feel like, one, they were kind of running out of bullets. And they mentioned earlier
to save your ammo.
Yeah.
But that wasn't. I'm just saying. Again, it wasn't bad. I wasn't like.
No. But I remember.
I wanted more people to die.
I found it odd as well that they didn't kill the people in the car. You know, it also could have been, and I'm coming up with my own explanations, which is never a good thing. But it could have been that they were in a rush to get out of there because they knew like the fuzz was close, so they just needed to get out of there.
True, that's true. Or maybe those people weren't. People got carjacked.
It was odd too because there was points where like it wasn't necessary to kill people, but they did it anyway. So there was like they were doing like crazy.
They made it clear that everybody that they came in contact with died.
Right.
So when those people didn't die, I was like, oh, okay.
And then it kind of messes up. Like, are these guys like?
They even killed the Muslim.
Are they doing it
taxi driver?
Are they doing it because they're sociopaths, or are they doing it because of the effect they're trying to, the message they're trying to?
Well, because the guy even says, I enjoyed killing all those people and all this stuff at when he gets captured, which again makes me. It's just a little blip. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Right. It's an inconsistency for sure.
So my thing, I have a question. This is another question. So after they blow the car up, basically, when they steal that car, they go to the barricade, and they just light that car up. They just Bonnie and Clyde the car. And the guy didn't get shot, you know, the main guy that they capture.
Yeah.
And they really captured him and stuff, so I'm going to assume that was accurate. What I didn't understand and what I didn't really like, and maybe this is just police procedure, but this is going to tie back to the cops not having guns. The first dude who walked up to him had no gun. And he just walked up and opened the door, and he just got blasted away. Yeah. It sucks that happened, but that would never happen here in America, ever, because all those people would have been armed. First of all, there's procedures. You know, they would have made sure that those people were dead before they even did anything to advance to that car. Right. So for me, I want to know: is this how Indian police are? Or is that just a retelling of the movie? I mean, again, this might not have bothered you, but to me,
I kind of looked at it as like
that guy didn't need to die if he did that.
I kind of looked at it as he knew that the guy might still be alive, so he was sacrificing himself to protect the rest of the people. Like that's why I looked at it. They all were advancing
forward though.
Right, but he decided to take the point, like and that's why he like grabbed the guy too, because he like.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like to me, if that's what really happened, I feel like that's kind of like a re-evaluation of your practices. Why would you approach a car like that? I don't care how many bullets you put in.
No, I get it. It was odd. It was definitely
because they're police officers.
Yeah.
They should know better, in my opinion. Right. I don't know how Indian police officers are. I can't comment on that.
Right.
But I can just.
I mean, I think for sure that American police officers are different from every other police officer in the world. You know, they would have approached with the gun. They're a happy medium. Okay, they're like right there with the gun, and the second you move, they're gonna shoot you. Like, I bet you if you go to Israel, like the Israeli police, the second you move, like even twitch, they're shooting you in between the eyes too. You know,
perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas other like English bobbies are like,
I don't think they carry guns.
They don't carry guns at all. I've seen a video where a guy was like wielding a machete, and they were like the whole time they were just dodging him with it, like try to get him down. You know,
I mean, but that's know, and that goes back to the whole commentary. Again, I hate fucking qualifying this, but I don't want to. I'm not shitting on India right now. I'm just observing. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah,
it's different. That's all. It's
right.
If it's an exposure to something new. Because let's be realistic. The movies that we've watched so far, the cops have been pretty incompetent.
Yeah.
I mean, really, unless you're John Abraham, you're in some secret service organization. The cops are shown to be incompetent.
It might be a commentary, not necessarily a commentary, but it just kind of shows us like cops in other countries are not as important as they are here.
Maybe.
You know, like I know just from personal experience, like cops in Puerto Rico are not respected by anyone. Cops in Mexico, I've been to Mexico where
they're all corrupt and shit.
My friend was like, we were getting sandwiches or like at 3 a.m. and these cops pulled up and my friend was talking shit to the cops the whole time, calling them like faggots basically. You know, while they're getting their sandwiches in Spanish, and then the cops just had their head down like the whole time. And my friend's not a gangster at all. At least I didn't think so. Maybe he was. And it's just
they just took it.
They just took it, knew. And that you can't talk like that to cops here.
Well, I guess we can just finish it off with the ugly then, like always. So
when we get to uglies, I don't really have anything that stood out, like that I could really say like helped like ruin the film at all. Honestly, for me, I don't really have much to say about it because I can't think off the top of my head right now. I can't think of anything that was just like so egregious that.
To me, it was the mixing. And that's the only thing I have.
Okay. And we discussed this before the podcast. I watched it on my laptop, so I'm using my laptop speakers. I didn't get the full sound experience out of it. You know?
And because I watched it surround sound and all that good stuff, but the mixing was just off. It was just sometimes you would hear, because I'm a guy, and this is just preference and taste, but when I watch an action movie, or not an action movie, but a movie that takes place in reality like this, I want to hear the real life surround sound as opposed to score just telling you how to feel at every moment. And that's what I felt like in certain moments where it was just, let's throw in the horns and all this stuff to really make you get on the edge of your seat. And I can see how it can work for some people, but for me,
instead of letting the visuals do their job,
exactly,
they try to and letting having the sound enhance it.
Right. To me, that's a lack of confidence in your vision, in my opinion, because you feel like you need that score to really drive home that these guys are bad, or that this is a serious moment, or this is a suspense moment.
I mean,
and it's just a mixing thing.
It's like trying to hit you over the head with it, and it wasn't necessary.
It was just, and it's just a mixing thing. It's not that the score was bad. It was just the mixing, because if you were to mix that a little bit less, and you were to hear more of like chatter of people talking or more screaming. Again, this sounds super negative to say, but if you were to hear more of that as opposed to the score drowning all of it out, to me, it would have been more effective.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to, the effectiveness. And the first 20 minutes were really bad. Like the boat thing, it just was really bad. I was like, man, I hope that this isn't the movie for the whole thing. Because I was really looking forward to the realism. I was really looking forward to the camera work. And so every time you'd have a great camera shot in that boat scene, you'd have atrocious score coming in. I was just like, oh my god, no.
I want to talk about something ugly from that boat scene when they're slitting the guy's throat and the guy doing it keeps looking into the camera, like he looks away and then he looks back into the camera a few times. Like I kept noticing that, like for such a powerful shot, and that they were trying to that kind of like ruin that shot because it was just not.
I felt like that
was poorly executed.
I felt like that was commentary by the director. To say, look into the camera. I want you to show the world how evil you are. and I think that loses its effectiveness. I agree with you 100%.
Well, because it was inconsistent too. Like maybe if he stared into the camera the whole time, but he didn't. He kept looking away. Like you could tell the guy doing it was probably not an actor, and like it could have been just a crew hand or something that they didn't have enough.
Right. Who knows? Who knows? But the point is though, it's just there was these inconsistencies, but most of it became more apparent because of the music, because of the mixing, not the music, because of the mixing.
Right. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's get into our ratings here.
Okay, so let's start off with directing, as always. For me, I'll start off. I think you started off last time. On a pure direction level, solid 8. I think that there was a lot of strong choices going on, a lot of the visual choices that were being done. There were definitely some inconsistent moments, like sound mixing. I'm going to blame that on the director because he would have been in those rooms with the sound mixer and he would have said, no, I want the score. So that's his fault, 100%. So like those things, like those moments really did distract it from me, and like him not knowing, like the guy should have. You don't shoot guns like this if you're an AK.
Right.
You just don't push it forward. You're not going to do that. You're just not going to do that. Things like some of the sound effects being like a lot of these things I'll attribute to him because he let it slide. He let it go by.
Absolutely.
And yourself?
I give it a 7 because I think like the scene selections and everything were pretty good, but like I said, there was issues with pacing. There's the issues that you brought up right now, and then just little things here and there that took away from what would have been a higher score for me. But overall, I think that's solid 7.
Yeah. All right, so sound, and this is not score, this is just sound design, just in general. For me, I know I critiqued mixing, but that's not the way the sound design was done. I thought the guns sounded cool, for the most part cool, but it sounded accurate to what they would actually sound like. For me, it was just a 6. It wasn't anything transcended or anything. I don't know. It was just basic for me.
Right.
But could have been worse. So for me, a solid 6.
This one's hard for me to score since I watched it on my laptop and I actually critiqued like the single shot sounds and stuff. So I'm just gonna go like right in the middle. Give it a 5.
Give it a 5.
Just because like it didn't affect me either way, but it wasn't like it was. I'm gonna say it was mediocre. Not
no, I
terrible.
hear you. It didn't do anything for you.
No.
And so we go to cinematography now. So cinematography to me was the best part of this movie, in my opinion, in terms of from a technical standpoint. And I will credit some of that to the director because that was his choice to go in there. But you got to hire the right camera people to pull these shots off. You got to have everything in check with the lighting and everything. And so to me, that was a solid 9.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with lighting or anything. Like everything looked pretty good, pretty solid.
Yeah. They rebuilt that whole hotel just for that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was not the real hotel. Most of the actually everywhere they shot was real,
pieces,
but
except for
the hotel they rebuilt.
The interior of it. I thought the cinematography was great. It was really good. I'll give it I will give it a 10. There was nothing distracting. Everything the guy did what he needed to do, and I think that's always a testament to.
I think I'm gonna go with the 10 actually too, because now that you said that, nothing popped out.
No,
nothing. Anything that did pop out was for other technical reasons, like the guns or the performance. Yeah. That has nothing to do with cinematography.
Anything weird was like a choice, a definitive choice, and it wasn't. We know
because of the cinematography.
Yeah, the DPs usually don't make those decisions.
So I agree with you. I'm gonna change it to a 10. I think you're right. Editing. Go ahead and go from there.
Editing for me, nothing took me out from the editing. Everything was pretty solid. So I'll give it an 8. It is,
For me, it was a 6, just because those pacing things did bother me.
But that also goes back to directors,
Yeah, I know, but you could have cut things out. You could have just, for me, like I said, it didn't do anything special.
Yeah.
It didn't really, but there was just certain moments, like in the Leopold Cafe, where I don't know why you needed to see him go through all the main guy who survived. Like, there's just some things that I just felt like could have been removed, and you could have had the same exact impact.
Well, and it goes back to the development. Like, we didn't have any character development of the victims at all.
So we don't know why we're following this guy.
Yeah, it was like a inconsistency.
And that's an editing thing. That's my thing for editing. And I'm not saying that guy's not important. He could have been a hero in real life.
Yeah.
I don't know. But in the story, he was insignificant.
No, yeah,
and
absolutely.
all that mattered was these people came in and murdered all these
Yep.
people. And you could have gotten that without having to do all that stuff.
Right.
Because it made me feel weird when you see the cops throwing the rocks, and it didn't add up to anything.
Yeah.
It didn't add it up to anything. They didn't have an interaction. They didn't talk about what happened. Nothing. They just cut to the new thing.
Right.
So for me, like, there was moments like that where it's like, okay, this scene's over, but we're going to be in it a little bit longer.
Right.
So solid 6, or for me, story as a movie.
This is probably going to be the worst part of the review for me. The story itself as a movie was pretty non-existent.
I mean, I give you my rating.
I was having trouble like connecting the dots and everything. Not connecting the dots per se, but like just really trying to think about
motivation.
What was this about? What are we? You know, what's the point of all this? And I think that was probably the most difficult part of the entire.
Yeah, because I think if you were Indian, or you knew people were involved, or even
exactly
you knew about these events,
that's also
you would connect to it 100%.
That is always a key to this. Is like. Not really a key, like I get it, like you're making this movie, you're not making it for us, but I think when you make a film, personally, in my opinion, like you want to consider someone that has no idea what this is about, what the context is. Am I going to be able to clearly show what my film is about so that everyone understands? And that's a sign of like a good filmmaker. Not saying he's a bad filmmaker, but saying
transcendent filmmaker.
Of a good film. If you're able to convey your story so that it's pretty much, you know, anyone can get it.
That's why James Cameron, to me, is one of the greatest filmmakers alive. You might not like Titanic. You might not like Avatar. You might think it's simplistic storytelling, or Terminator, or whatever. Everybody gets those movies.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
There's a reason why those movies succeed.
I mean, but we also get into like simplification and stuff. But that's
sure. But I'm just saying though,
right.
That's the extreme version.
Yeah, I think that's a key to a lot of these movies. Like, I should be able to jump in and figure out what's going on without like having tons and tons of context beforehand. Like, I don't like biopics, but the only ones I do watch are like when I don't know anything about the person. And a good biopic is one that I know who this guy was after watching the film. And this for me did not do that. I mean, I still don't. The motivations were like, why did these guys do that? Just to make a statement, you know?
They kind of touch upon it, but then
but not really.
The reality is, why the fuck do they do any of this shit?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a real reality.
Yeah, I would just like to know, like, I'd love to see an interview, like, why Mr. Varma, like, why he felt like he needed to make this movie.
Yeah, because I gotta agree with you. Because for me, this felt like reliving events.
Yeah.
But it didn't add anything to the ethos or the path, whichever one word it is,
right,
to the overall thing. So what's your rating?
I'll probably give it like a 3. Just that's a tough one for me to, like, you know. I almost want to give it a 1, you know, but I think 3, you know, because there's something there, but there isn't. You know, and this is me. I've never been a fan of day in the life stuff. Like you touched on the Italian neorealism stuff. I hate those films. I completely hate them. Like those
you didn't even like Fruitvale Station, and that was a movie that took place in Oakland.
Exactly.
And that was a day in the life.
Those movies, I feel like we watch those old Italian movies so that for historical reasons. So like
we know where we came from
because of techniques that these filmmakers came up with. Yeah, and this is that technique that people use now. They got it from this film here, and that's why we watch it. But as films themselves, standalone, I don't think they're very good at, you know.
I for the most part agree with you. For me, story's at a 4, and I'm only gonna do that because it just held my attention.
Right.
I kind of got that. Like, to me, I didn't need the motivation for the terrorists because, like in United 93, you don't get that motivation.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, it's not important. It is because you kind of know that they're doing something.
But like you said, the difference with that is that a connection was built.
Absolutely.
With the victims.
That's where my huge negative comes.
Yeah.
This could have easily been a character study on the main inspector guy.
Yeah.
Where you could have really, really, really lived the events, not through his eyes per se, but really struggled with him. When he's saying, I don't know what the fuck is going on, and the guy says, well, we'll send you're the Mumbai police, you know, you guys have prestige, and he says, fuck this prestige.
Right.
Like, that was my favorite line in the whole movie.
Absolutely.
But it only worked because we saw 3 terrorist attacks back to back to back to back, right?
Yeah.
But if you would have set him up as this normal human being and, you know, showed him in bed with his wife or whatever, and whatever it might be, however you want to go about it, and it leads through all this stuff, and people are constantly calling him and like, I don't know what to do, and he's losing his shit, and then that moment happens, it's even more impactful. And then the scenes at the end when
not to throw the Hollywood comparison out there, but you could almost have treated him like the cop in Jaws, you know.
Which cop?
The lead.
Sheriff Brody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
where he's just kind of thrown into the situation.
Perfect.
He has
no
idea what to do.
That's a perfect comparison. And the reason why that's a perfect comparison is because this shouldn't have been a movie about the attacks of 26/11, in my opinion. This should have been a movie about that guy. If he was so important, right? Because he's the one he's the connective tissue through everything.
Exactly.
He's the very last shot of the movie, and we talk about how the film talks about how he got promoted and everyone praised him and everything like that, right? To me, that says this movie's about him.
Right. Especially because it ends with him at the beach just kind of staring out into the abyss.
So that means this movie should have been about him.
Yeah.
It should have been his story that also interweaved the events of 26/11.
And that's just if you want to go, like, it should have been, for me, I feel like it should have been either him or about the people that were affected.
Exactly.
Like, just how, like, the community, like, responded to this. Because
absolutely.
It was more, us watching
violence.
Two terrorists just kill people for no apparent reason.
Which is why I shouldn't have said enjoying earlier. I should have said appreciate it. Because you're right. And so for me, it's a 4, just because what was on screen, for the most part, was effective.
Right.
It's just, it missed 6 points because of that. It could have easily been, and it would have been a better, if it would have done either of what we just suggested, it could have transcended and have been a universal story everywhere.
Yeah.
Because then it would have became a story about, even if you've never heard 26/11, the events, and this happened and someone watched this movie 20 years from now, and they watched this film because they said, yeah, man, that movie, that character study where this guy handles all these terrorist attacks, it would have always been more impactful.
Right.
To me, this movie won't stand the test of time because of that. Because why the fuck would I ever want to watch a movie again about these events?
It'll stand the test of time for the people that were there.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and because it's a reminder of what happened.
But I mean, but it's so
the rest
grotesque.
of us outside of the country.
Would you ever own this movie though?
No. No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't buy it. It's one of the,
I don't want to watch it again.
I'm not going to watch it ever again. Yeah, definitely. It's not.
Because it's so, maybe it's because it's too real. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thing. I'm not saying what he did is bad. I'm just saying that it could have been better.
No, I'm with you on that.
And then finally, the last variable is the effects. And this is visual, practical, all that stuff. Because we had some explosions going on. We had some practical effects with the guns. So yeah, what would you rate it? Or
I overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 because I liked the gunshot wounds. I liked the most of the practical effects. I thought they were well done. The CGI explosions were where I was
they were rough.
They were bad.
Some felt real though.
Yeah,
I think some were practical.
It was the weird like pattern of flame on the ground kind of thing that
I think that's what those are the practical ones because I think they added the fuel on the floor.
Okay, yeah, and I actually didn't like that. I was like, this is kind of odd. Not to mention, and this is like real nitpicky, but like grenades don't explode like that. Like grenades aren't flammable. They don't have the combustion.
There's more of the shrapnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. I mean, if you're right on a grenade, it'll blow you up.
It'll have a little spark, obviously, because it has gunpowder or something to ignite the grenade. But for the most, it's all the stuff
that really fucks you up.
That messes you up. Yeah. So like things catching on fire, like it didn't. I mean, I get it. I feel like if you're not familiar with it, that's how you expect. Like another one is like I think bazookas don't do that either. You know, when you shoot a.
What? They don't explode? What are you talking about?
No, they don't. Rocket launchers. There's one of those things that shoot stuff, or it's a grenade launcher. It shoots a grenade and
the grenade doesn't explode.
Yeah, it's a shrapnel thing. It's not a. But when we see in movies, we see like a fucking flames going everywhere when the thing's coming.
Because it's a movie, you know. It has
right,
to be.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying it probably did happen though. I mean, I'm sure people could say, yeah, well, if you don't think it happened, watch the security cam footage where it shows.
No, absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But
so it's. But for me, it was a 6 because the inconsistency with the practical effects. I appreciate the practical effects, but you have to keep it consistent, man.
Right.
Because the blood was consistent. Like, that was consistent through and through.
Right.
I mean, it was clear and evident that they wanted to use the blood packs only on the chest because that's considered to be the safest spot.
Well, I mean, some of the headshots were great, I thought.
No,
with shooting people in the head, those are like...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they went there. But see, there was a little delay in some of these things.
Right.
That's what kind of bothered me. Like, they would shoot the gun, and then a second later, the head would pop.
Right.
Which bullets travel at the speed of sound, it would have been lights out before that guy even knew it. And again, this isn't a major critique on the overall story. It's just, we're just going over it. So let's do a quick calculation here. So that puts our final totals at me a solid 7 and you a 6.3, which I also feel is pretty accurate. I think these reviews are actually kind of accurate. I mean, I don't know if you have...
Well, I know people, there's been critiques like that we're weighing some categories. They shouldn't be equal across the board, but I feel like our final scores are kind of...
what they would be.
I think the only movie so far, I mean, this is only 3 reviews in, but the only one so far that was kind of off was OMG, since we both liked it more than PK.
Right. And it was a lower rating than PK. But, you know...
Exactly.
But I still feel like it's kind of accurate. Like I would have given it a 7, 7.5.
Yeah.
So for me, for it to come to a 7, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because it wasn't the greatest movie, but it wasn't a terrible movie either.
No, definitely
It was just this very sensitive subject matter that we just...
Is this something you would recommend to someone?
This movie?
Yeah.
Depends. If someone was going to make... they're making a movie in this vein, I would definitely say, hey, you probably should check that out.
Right.
Both to see what worked and didn't work. Because I think that's important for filmmakers out there. Because a lot of people always talk shit about us, talk shit about me, you. Why do you watch these movies? Why do you watch this Boggy 2? Why do you watch Transformers? Why do you... whatever. In order to become a better filmmaker...
You didn't watch Boggy 2. That doesn't exist.
Oh,
according to YouTube.
Fuck that movie. In order to become a better filmmaker, you need to know all types of movies.
Yeah.
And... because you need to know what was done right and what was done wrong, what to avoid, what not to avoid, because there's certain moments in movies...
You need to pick stuff, take the stuff that you can. Take the good, leave the bad.
Exactly. But you need to know what the bad is in order to avoid it. And so, I just...
You need context. It's like, there's no beautiful people if nobody's ugly.
That's true. Just like there's no beautiful people, or the opposite.
Right.
I was gonna say
there's no ugly people if everybody's beautiful.
Right. I mean, that's probably not true.
I mean, there's no beautiful... I mean, these are... If everybody's beautiful, then nobody's beautiful.
Right.
So that's the best way of putting it.
But anyway, I think that'll do it. I think it was a long review.
It was longer than I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, because I came in here, let's breeze through it. It's going to be easy. We kind of agree on things. But no, we went out there, like always.
That's how we do it. But anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching, guys. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Leave comments. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, please let us know what you think. Because I know I'm expecting some, like, tension back and forth here, but we really want to keep this conversation going. As I always say, we're both two ignorant people here, but everyone's ignorant to a certain degree, so let's all be ignorant together and just kind of have a conversation.
Next week, we're going to be reviewing Black Friday.
Anurag Kashyap's film, 2004, that was released in 2007 because of censorship. So we have to read up on that.
Okay.
And talk about that.
And then we're going to do Syrot after that. Syrot? Yeah, so Syrot's after that. So now you guys know Black Friday followed by Syrot. Yeah, keep them coming, guys. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.